5 and 5. 5 critical questions to ask ourselves when selecting texts. Question number 1. Why is it important to select diverse texts for our programs?
Every day at school, students read many different nonfiction and fiction texts, such as picture books, novels, articles, websites, infographics, media, poetry, or posters, selected for them by educators across all subjects. The text students read can affirm or neglect their identities, represent or erase their experiences, center or ignore their ways of knowing, and amplify or silence their ways of speaking. Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop uses a powerful metaphor to describe the relationships readers should have with texts. Bishop writes, "Books are sometimes windows offering views of worlds that may be real or imagined, familiar or strange. These windows are also sliding glass doors, and readers have only to walk through in imagination to become part of whatever world has been created and recreated by the author. When lighting conditions are just right, however, a window can also be a mirror." In order to engage students with authentic and relevant learning materials, educators must make decisions by considering which social identities are present in and missing from the texts in their classrooms.
Question number 2. What might we need to consider to make the text we select accessible to each learner?
First, the modality must meet the needs of the learner, which may include providing large print, integration with Google Read and Write, or an audiobook. Second, the reading level should be appropriate for the level of support the student is receiving. With how much independence will the student be accessing the text? Text should be intentionally chosen to represent the learning goals for each student to meet their cognitive needs, as well as to spark interest and joy in reading as they continue to develop strategies and skills. Third, the text should be engaging. When students are involved in the process of text selection, as opposed to teachers doing it for and to students, they are more likely to be invested.
Question number 3. How are we using a CRRP approach to affirm the diverse intersectional identities in our classrooms?
For too long, we have been using colonial methods in text selection that have contributed to the historical and ongoing marginalization of students in schools. We have erased the foundational and diverse voices that have contributed to our culture. Through intentional text selection, we are able to refute monolithic constructions of diverse and intersecting identities. We are further able to confront the existence of historical and ongoing oppressions while simultaneously affirming intersectional identities and diverse lived experiences. Learners come from every circumstance. They bring with them a valuable world perspective needed by all students to operate successfully in a global community. As such, it is important to include diverse and intersectional identities to develop a holistic approach to engaging with peoples and cultures, refuse monolithic constructions, and affirm learners' complex and intersecting identities and experiences.
Question number 4. How are we teaching critical literacy?
Critical literacy invites students to think more deeply about text, to evaluate perspectives, reliability, credibility, and to develop questioning skills that encourage them to think and act on their decisions. For students to engage in this way, they must first feel safe, valued, and seen. Ensuring that each text is appropriate and that the collection is representational plays an important role in supporting each student in engaging in critical literacy. When determining text appropriateness, educators should reflect on the values that each text explicitly and implicitly communicates. To do this, consider things like how language is used, whose voices are present or absent, whether or not the text upholds or perpetuates a single worldview to the exclusion or oppression of others, and the implications of text authorship. For example, if the author has not lived the identities or partnered with the identities about which they are writing, the text runs the risk of misrepresenting the very voices it may be seeking to empower. Critically reflecting with our colleagues, students, and community members on the values our text collection communicates will support us in determining which texts can stand alone, which need to be strategically paired, and which should be removed altogether. This collaborative process also supports our students in developing transferable critical literacy skills that they can use to independently analyze and evaluate texts within our classrooms and the world beyond its walls.
Question number 5. What does this mean for our classrooms?
What we have heard is that simply selecting texts in a new way won't change outcomes for our learners that are marginalized unless we change what we are doing with the texts in our classrooms. We need to teach students to think critically about what they read, watch, and listen to. Students must ask questions about authors' choices, such as who is represented, whose voices are left out, who has power or agency in the text? Is there a historical or cultural context that I'm missing? Educators must rethink and take action to refresh the texts we select on an ongoing basis and combine it with culturally relevant and responsive pedagogy to dismantle white supremacy. Together, we can create spaces that affirm the identities of students so that they might become skilled, active participants in ongoing social transformation.